Good evening, everyone. It's 6:35, so I think we've given people a couple extra minutes that may have been having problems getting in. I think we'll start the meeting right now. If any of you have not heard my previous announcement, if you could please respond to the chat button and add your name and your contact information, whatever the best way you'd like to be contacted in the future for any involvements or information regarding this project. You are in the citizens participation meeting for the Owl Creek site plan. We are explaining this evening what the program will be. My name is Scott Betzold. I'm with Midwestern Consulting. I was the civil engineer on the original site plan for Owl Creek. A lot of you remember it maybe as Woodbury Club at that time. And with me is Brad Moore, who's serving as the architect and entitlement consultant on this particular project. With that, I'm gonna turn over to Brad, who's going to talk a little bit about the general process of the citizens participation meeting and some specifics about this project. Then we'll flip through a little preliminary site plan to show you what's being proposed. And this is very informal, and we're open to willing to answer any questions you might want to pose to us this evening. So, Brad, why don't you take over?
Yeah, just as an overview to the process for any who may not be familiar with it, this is the very beginning of a process that will eventually move on to site plan filing with the city and a rezoning request. This is a required meeting, and the city wants to make sure we hear all the comments of interested parties, answering the questions. Then we'll craft a final version of the proposal and submit it to the planning department. It will go through a round of staff reviews to make sure that it complies with all the city requirements. And then after the staff review process, it will go on to the planning commission, and there'll be a public hearing and discussion at the planning commission meeting. And then it will go on after the planning commission meeting to city council for another public hearing action. So this is the very beginning of the process, and the public has an opportunity at every one of those stages to offer comment and input. So this is the very first opportunity for that. I can, with Scott, we can run through the current proposal. Just to summarize, when the project was originally designed, it was designed for 4 locations for buildings to be built. But through a variety of changes that occurred during the process of that project, only 3 buildings were built, and the 4th building was never built. We're contemplating in this proposal building the 4th building and the location that was prepped for that building. There's a significant number of unused parking on the site, and that can accommodate or support some additional residential units. So, Scott, if you might want to pull up an aerial view of the project, we can kind of key everybody into the project, at least as a bird's eye view. Is it about people unmuted?
Yes. Can everybody hear me and everyone can see my screen? Can someone? Adam, can you? Okay, you guys can hear me? All right. And you guys are voluntarily muted.
Your mother's calling.
Gotcha. Perfect. All right. This is an aerial of our site. These are the existing 3 buildings that are there right now. The clubhouse, some detached covered garages. The area where the previous building was planned for is this area that's open out here. This parking was built out here around it. At the time, the parking ratios actually required this much parking to serve these existing buildings. Since then, the parking requirements have been revised. They've essentially been dismissed, and they've left it up to everyone to determine whether or not they're capable of parking their customers and residents. Our client has informed us that this parking never gets used, and obviously this aerial photo would be a pretty good testament to that. And so when that happened, our client thought, well, this is actually an opportune time to come back and revisit the previous proposal that they had actually submitted to the city, and then withdrew the election of this building out here. And so now at this point, it's viable to do so. And I would take an opportunity to even show you that. So this is the original submittal to the city of Ann Arbor, probably back in maybe 2014. As you see, there's a building sitting up here. I don't remember if we actually went through and completely got the whole site plan approved before we went back and amended it and removed this building, or if we decided to remove the building during the part of the approval process. But nonetheless, it was contemplated. Many utilities have been set up in forethought of this building being constructed sometime in the future. So it's a relatively easy plug-in to the existing site. Now I will,
as you'll note, the particulars of the actual footprint of the buildings changed over the course of the project, and the footprint of the building we're proposing for this area that is a building pad on the site, as yet unused, is just a fairly simple rectangular building pad, just to stay as simple as possible to build. Everybody may have heard that the construction costs in today's environment are just sky high, so you can't literally afford to build anything too elaborate. So we're going to keep it simple in an effort to both keep the energy costs of running the building low and also keep the cost of construction low. But the building would have a footprint that is smaller on the first level. That is to say, the upper levels would extend over that lobe of parking that is on the east side of the main body of the building. So that's the first floor plan. You can see the dash line extends out over that parking. So we get to increase the number of units without markedly increasing the impervious area, because at that part of the site, the pavement is already impervious. We would add a new trash dumpster location in the upper left-hand corner of the site there to handle the compacted trash and recycling containers that building would produce. The existing trash handling facility is probably not going to be able to handle 100% of the trash in the new building, so we're proposing a separate trash pickup location.
The existing detention pond that's currently located out here will partially serve this new building. In addition to that, we'll be augmenting with some underground detention cells. The water and sanitary are perfectly capable of handling this additional building. That was vetted when we originally proposed this, what now has become a deferred project. We've had preliminary meetings with the city to discuss refuse collection, water and sewer issues, the parks issue. What else are we like to tackle with them?
Basically,
planning and zoning issues.
Planning, zoning, parks, solid waste, fire marshal, engineering, utilities.
Yeah, this is a rezoning because since the original project was approved.
Well, yeah.
Since the original project was approved, our clients donated 9 acres of property to the city of Ann Arbor. All of this is over here. They donated to the city at the city's request. So when this building was originally proposed, they would have met density requirements for the zoning district that they were in. But because they gave away this property, essentially, they now proposing the same building that they once proposed would be at a higher density than the zoning district that the balance of the site was constructed in would allow. And so that's why it's a rezoning. Otherwise, it would, if they wouldn't have given this property to the city, they would have been able to just construct this building, and it would have been just a city planning commission issue to approve, and it would have never had to go to city council. But as a result of their donation of parkland, now we'll have to go to city council for technically a rezoning. But it's the same project that was originally proposed to the city of Ann Arbor back in about 2014.
You want to run through the architectural elevation?
Yeah. Okay, here's the pretty stuff.
Yeah. So the building would be 5 stories, predominantly in the center of the structure, and then 4 stories at each end. The 4-story portions would have an outdoor amenity terrace for the residents. And on the 5th floor element, the middle element, we would reserve that for that rooftop area of the 5th floor for rooftop mechanical equipment and solar panels. So the usage of the building's rooftop is only at each end of the building. You'll see on the left-hand side, there's the part where the building goes over the parking.
Here we go.
Yeah. And then the exterior palette of materials is viewed as being the same exterior palette of materials as the existing buildings, which are a combination of stone and siding, and exterior balconies, and it's most of the units, not all, but most of the units, so that they have the ability to step outside in the fresh air. And that's true with the existing buildings as well.
This is the north elevation. This is the highway side.
That's the opposite side.
That's the south side. That's facing the wetland area. And this isn't really a big show. These are the ends.
That's either the west end and the east end.
Yeah.
The first floor of the west end is trash handling room where the trash chutes and the compactors are. That's why there's an overhead door there. The 2 and 3 yard compacted trash bins get rolled out of that room over to the collection point that we talked about earlier on the site. So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Hi, this is Gary. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can, Gary.
All right, super. Having recently lived at Owl Creek Apartments, I've got some experience with getting in and out of the parking lot area there, including driving, moving trucks and things like that in and out. Are you planning on addressing the tight corner on the way back into that parking area? There's obviously already damage to the overhead protection stuff. And, it seems like you'd have a tough time getting a semi back there around that corner. So when you're coming back and you're almost ready to make that left turn to go off into that area, it's really, really tight. So it's like the last little leg of those carports, that corner, the last corner where the carport's present. So
Gary, you are, hold on a second,
So just right there. So back where those right there, that corner right there. That's the one that you already see damage there. I'm not certain you're going to be able to maintain some of those carports there if you're planning on getting 40-foot moving trucks in and out of there.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up because let me just pull something up here.
And if that's the case, we may have to relocate some of those carports.
Well, we have to actually. We absolutely have to. I just need to get to.
And can you sort of walk us through how you envision the residents of this new structure, traversing through that community and whether they're coming out the north entrance or the south entrance onto Nixon Road? How do you envision that happening?
I'm waiting for Scott to.
Yeah, I'm obviously struggling here. Okay, all right, I got it.
It's almost easier to see from the satellite view.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You can see the road.
Okay, so we have to remove. So I'm guessing what is it, the inside
Yep.
things are damaged. Okay.
Inside corner.
Oh, thank you very much because we have to remove either some outside carports or some inside carports. Relocate because we have to remove them from this area because we have a water main easement that's going to be too large. They can't be in the water main easement. So knowing that this is a tight corner, which is this, am I actually looking at damage to that corner right there?
Yeah, take a drive over there. You'll see that there's
Okay.
damage to those carport edges
Okay,
there.
no, that's good to know because that tells me which ones should be relocated. And I didn't know that, but that's a very good point. I thank you for that.
Yeah, my guess is, Scott, if you can pan to the left, my guess is that majority of the traffic would probably exit from that northern driveway, since that's the closest one to that parking lot. We have a traffic engineer retained for the project. He's not here tonight, but I could certainly verify that with him and get back to you.
No, I can see what Gary's talking about. That looks like a pinch point there.
Yep.
For a long, large vehicle.
So the reason I ask about the ingress and egress off on the Nixon Road is that when you come out of that north entrance onto Nixon Road, the cars are coming over that hill, over the bridge, and they're cruising, and it's sort of dangerous to try and make a left turn and go south there out of the north entrance onto southbound Nixon. Which brings me to, I think, the possibility of just trying to see if you can get some traffic flow mechanism for southbound Nixon Road's speed. Okay, northbound, yeah, probably a thing, but southbound, there's people that are probably going 60 miles an hour.
I would believe you.
We'll check with the city engineering and traffic department to see if there might be some kind of measure that we could implement to ameliorate that.
Yeah, it might be a cause for one of those, radar signs, flashes.
There you go.
Yeah,
right.
That's a start.
People usually notice those, don't they?
Yeah, but I'm just saying right now, pulling out of the north side and trying to go south, especially in the morning, can be very dangerous. And adding more people going out of there is only going to make that situation worse.
I noticed they've added some of those radar speed signs around the Pioneer High School. I go past them every day, and people do seem to take notice and slow down when their speed is obviously being broadcast here.
Yeah, I've noticed they have little solar powered ones that are much smaller than the ones that used to be on a trailer and such. So like obviously I'm guessing they're more affordable and you can buy more of them and set them up every now and then here and there.
So as part of this, it'd be nice to have, maybe the city do a speed study and just see what it's like today, because you add another, 100 cars coming out of there. And that's why I asked which one they're coming in and out of. Not so bad out of the south, but the north one is a hazard, depending upon how fast cars are going and how fast your reaction time is to pull out in front of them. Make a left turn out onto the road in front of them.
Yeah, I know that overpass, like to the north, you use arched, and so they pop up really quick.
Right. Okay. And then since I'm unmuted here, I'll just go on with my third point here is that Nixon Road is starting to degrade quite a bit. There's a lot of potholes on the road, and this would be a good opportunity if we're going to add additional residential capacity to try and figure out how to get Nixon Road south of 1423 Bridge rebuilt.
So it's mostly potholes, or is the edge of the pavement deteriorating along the shoulder, or cracks forming in differential settlement? Is there any specific kind of issue?
I think all of those are probably true in various points along the road.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Garrett.
You know, having a nice new shiny residence is nice, but having your people coming out to, you know, live in that, driving over Nixon Road is not going to be doing you any favors. Not that it won't be a nice place to live, because I really enjoyed my stay there.
You still live in the area, Gary?
Yeah, I actually live across the street right now.
Okay, the Toll Brothers development?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
I'm in building 3. And
right now?
Right now. I agree with what Gary has said. The road is breaking up. How many rooms are there in the new building compared with the present buildings, which are identical?
So we're still studying floor plans and unit sizes and the mixes of them, but somewhere between 100 and 130
units.
What are the present ones?
I'm sorry, what are the what?
What are the present buildings capacity?
I think altogether, all 3 buildings are in the neighborhood of 260, 65, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, because the traffic has really increased exponentially out of that north driveway. That's really heavy. Mine is a very just a people-centered concern. Some of us already use that road to the east in order to go into the nature area. And it's very difficult to go into there because you've got to cross a creek, and you're only doing is you're crossing it with sticks that are laying across it. I would hope that you could do some conversations between you and the city and make an improvement there, because there's going to be a lot more people wanting to go in there. It's just a lovely area, and it contributes very much to our lifestyle.
We will definitely take that up with the Parks Department. The Parks Department always uses the new development as an opportunity to ask for contributions to improve city parks. So
all it needs is a little bridge, not much.
Yeah.
We'll definitely put that on our list. That seems like an awesome idea.
Are there some paths that have been sprung up through there?
Oh yeah, there's trails throughout there, and they're well established. Some of those are a little wet seasonally.
Yeah.
But it's a nice walking area, and I'm sure a lot of people are taking their dogs through there rather than using the dog park. I don't have a dog, so it's not me.
Gotcha.
I would imagine the bird watching is awesome there.
Well, I mean, a lot more traffic will degrade it. They might need some greater protections in that nature area, but it's a nice area to go.
All right, thanks, Ben. Is there anybody else that had any comments they want to share?
Yeah, on that point, will the dog park be affected at all by this building? And also commenting on the road, yeah, it is deteriorating a lot over the winter, especially like right before you turn into the apartment building, the first entrance.
You know, I have seen this happen lots of places. Winter is terrible on our roads. I would encourage everybody who is in that area to submit a request on the city's, they have an app you can get on your phone to report such things. The more reports they get, on a certain road or a certain intersection or a certain stretch of sidewalks about the condition, it bumps up their priority in terms of getting something done. So we certainly will do our part to connect with the city's engineering department and roads department, but you can kind of start the process with their Fix-It app by reporting it on the Fix-It app, because my experience has been more times one little issue or one set of issues show up in a stretch of road or a stretch of sidewalk or a crosswalk, it gets more attention quickly. So yeah, we'll do our part, but I suggest you guys be proactive in this regard too.
It's the same old squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the tip. I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, let me just look at the
Google it. I think it's Fix It Ann Arbor is what it's called.
Yeah, it's A2 Fix It.
Sure.
A2 Fix It, yes. Yeah.
To fix it. Okay.
And if you want, the option exists, you can report it and let your identity be seen, or you can do it anonymously. And then other people, once you report it, you can find other neighbors who are on the system. They'll in essence click a like on it and boost its priority as well.
Makes sense.
That might be a good thing to do through the apartments, social connection, techniques, and the same thing across the street here in Toll Brothers.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get a drive going to get Nixon fixed up, and I think that'll help.
And once you cross the bridge, if you see something on the other side of the bridge, the county has the same app customized for Washtenaw County. So we're fortunate that we can focus attention for both the city and the county.
I think I saw Ken. Hey, Ken.
Hey, Scott. Hi, Brad. How you guys doing?
Good.
Hey there.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Yeah, I totally agree with Gary about southbound traffic on Nixon. It's people just come careening. What is it, Ann Arbor Township on the other side of the bridge?
Yeah, it's commuters, morning commuters. Yeah.
And yeah, I live just south in Northbury, and I ride my bike across that bridge, and there is no shoulder on that bridge. It's terrifying. So I don't think there's going to be an investment in rebuilding it, but I would sure love to see it. Anyway, I have a couple of questions. So you mentioned the park donation in the southeast part of this site. Was there a previous park donation for the large portion to the east? Was that donated by the same owner?
I think that it was actually a sale of this property at a negotiated price. But that was not part. Then this part was the just donation that occurred as a part of the site planning of the entire development.
I trust Scott on that. That's before my involvement in the project.
But yeah, that originally our clients purchased this entire property, and the city opted to purchase this half of it because it was contiguous with the whole. I forget what they call this, Oakwoods Nature Area, I believe it is. And then as a part of the site planning, to make the wetlands all contiguous and under singular ownership and stewardship of the city of Ann Arbor, my clients donated this 9 acres.
Right. So here's my question. That donation was built into the development agreement, correct?
I assume so, yeah.
So that development agreement was based on R4A zoning for the parcel. Now you're coming back and saying, well, we need R4C because we donated that parcel, and to accommodate this density, we need a different zoning district. This strikes me as kind of a bait and switch. I mean, you knew at the time of the original development agreement that southeast parcel was not going to be part of this, and yet you went with R4A, and now you're saying, well, we want to build another building, so the whole thing's got to go to R4C, as if it was unforeseen that you were going to be donating this to the city. So this, I don't know about this. I mean,
Well, I can speak to the unforeseen issue. The unforeseen was not, they foresaw donating the park to a certain extent. What we didn't foresee was that the parking ordinance would change. And so rather than having a sea of unused parking, we have a way to put better use to the parking by adding that density. So the thing that kind of changed that no one expected to change was the fact that the overly burdensome parking requirements were changed. Right.
Okay, so that was the limiting factor before in terms of putting this building in. You didn't have enough room for parking based on the requirements.
Precisely.
Interesting. Okay, well that clarifies that. Thank you. And my other question has to do, I'm glad to hear that you're putting solar on the roof. Do you have any idea how much?
Again, this is, the city wants us to hold these citizens participation meetings early enough in the process. And because it's early in the process, we're still dealing with solar consultants, energy modeling consultants, et cetera. So we don't have a final figure. But yeah, I'm sure it's going to be, 60 to 75 kVA.
Okay, but for 135 units, that's not going to really do very much.
Well, it certainly wouldn't provide 100% of the demand on site, but it is definitely a good use of the roof service. There may be some opportunities. Again, we're still working with our solar consultants to, have some panels added to the carports, and that may increase the total generating capacity. But again, that's still in the process of being analyzed.
Yeah, carport would be great, but 75 kilowatts. I mean, they say an average single-family home maybe can use 12 kilowatts. So we're talking about the equivalent of 6 or 7 houses electricity being put on that roof. I would hope you would consider putting on more.
We'll put on as much as we can, given the rooftop surface area and the need for other equipment that has to be on the roof.
Okay, that's all I can ask.
Yeah, we might get to 80 or 90. Again, we'll push it to where we can get it to.
How about freestanding solar in some of the remaining open space?
Haven't discussed it. Oh, and back to Lisa. I just realized, Lisa, you said something about the dog park. Sorry, Ken.
Yeah.
I looked at my notes and I saw a dog park, and I realized I hadn't addressed it yet. That's on the other side of the parking lobe there that we're going to build over, so we don't anticipate any impacts to the dog area.
Okay, awesome. That's what I thought it looked like from the map, but I thought I'd clarify. Thanks.
Sorry.
So given how tight parking is, in the current apartment populated areas, do you really think you're going to be able to put 135 units in there and be able to fit their parking in to the number of spaces that I'm seeing here on your overhead display? It looks like it's going to be tight.
Yeah, maybe fewer. We're still working with a management company to finish the analytics on the parking utilization.
Okay. Yeah, my experience is, every apartment gets a carport, and there's a certain number of free spaces available in that area. Some people's carports are so far away from their apartments that they park in the free spaces instead. And when you come out there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to come home and try and find a spot, you pretty much have to go to your carport because all the free spots are used in the populated areas around the apartment buildings. And I'm guessing that I think parking's going to be really tight there. And thus I think that you're probably going to end up coming back and saying we need more parking, which I'm not certain I'm a fan of because I like the green space you've got there right now.
Yeah, we'll certainly take that up with management.
Is there anybody else? Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, you probably know this one's coming. Building electrification. or are you guys going to go with gas?
We're pursuing electrification, Ken. We're looking at a lot of options. My recollection is that the original buildings were predominantly electric with heat pump systems, and so we're trying to use the same heat pump systems or even a more efficient version of the same heat pump systems.
Actually, Ken, the buildings are all electric. There is no gas lead except to the clubhouse, as I recall, for the pool heater. The buildings themselves, the gas does not get into the main crux of the development. There's no Detroit Edison gas that services these buildings. It's just, I think the only thing it services is the heater for the pool.
I didn't know that. So Ben, Liza, Gary, did you know that you had no gas heat? This was all heat pump? And how is that working out for you?
Um, I'm in an end 2-bedroom, and we've had gas from the very start. We have no electric heat. And then they retrofitted gas to a lot of the electric.
Scott? Brad?
I'm sorry?
I mean, you're saying there's no gas connection. Ben's saying there is.
I was just informed that it was added. Originally, there was no gas.
That's not true in the end units. The 2 and 3 bedrooms on the ends have always had gas.
Huh. Yeah, irrespective of what's going on in the current units. Again, that was before my time. I am working with the ownership to try to get analysis done to see if it's possible not to have gas in the new building.
Well, people in the electric apartments and the small ones were having such exorbitant bills that management changed it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is as far as my recollection, I moved in after that had happened, but from what I had heard, it got moved to gas because because the heating costs were insane for residents.
Even or electric hot water heater combined with a couple people living in an apartment and being very careful on electricity use still was like, wow, twice as high as I would have expected for that type of apartment. So one of the complaints about Owl Creek apartments is that the electric bills are very, very high. You can see that in the reviews.
Does anyone know what kind of electric it was? Was it a central VRF system or mini split, or were there separate units in each apartment, heat pumps?
There were separate ones in each apartment, and they were in the walls.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be hard. Yeah. Okay.
Again, that was before my time, Ken. I can't speak to it.
Yeah, I'm unsure of exactly what type it was. I know now that they switched over to gas, the electric bills have not been exorbitant like they've heard they were before, so.
Well, sure, but now you've got gas bills.
That's right.
Yeah,
do you have a gas
that's
stove?
true, but it's substantially cheaper than what it was before with the electric, from what I've heard.
So I think one of the challenges there is, how can we try and go electric without having exorbitant costs, but trying to reduce the fumes in the apartments that affect the people, right? One of the things from the gas stoves. The other question is, do you understand what the electric feed is into this subdivision?
We don't have any gas stoves.
Okay, good. So do we know what capacity we have to be able to add another building here? Because Ann Arbor is famous for electrical blackouts and all kinds of electrical stuff blowing up and DTE and all that fun stuff. Are you going to be the tipping point for the northeast tip of the city here with adding this new building?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We have a meeting set up in a couple of weeks with the DTE engineering team just to confirm that they do have the ability to supply the project. Their initial information is that we do, and they'll be able to serve us. We just have to meet with the engineering team in a couple of weeks.
Okay, fingers crossed on that one.
Now I've got another project I'm working on over at Pawnee Trail in Duvarn on a 5-acre empty piece there, and we've got a similar engineering meeting. I think it's 3 weeks with DTE over there. So far, they haven't indicated that they have any issues with the amount of power on this side of town. So keep your fingers crossed.
Brad, is that the village development?
I'm sorry?
The one on Duverne and Pontiac Trail, is that the village?
No. This is right on the corner, the vacant lot with the barn on it.
Oh, that's commercial, right?
It's a PUD.
Oh, okay. Have you submitted plans on that one yet?
Nope. Citizens participation meeting probably in 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, thanks.
Kippy?
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
This is probably not so much of a building question, but just like a hypothetical maybe to throw out to people who are higher up in Owl Creek. I would love to see them add composting and not just trash and recycling for residents as an option. So right now, even though the city of Ann Arbor, you can get a free bin for each residence, Owl Creek does not have any.
Yeah, we as a matter of fact, we're just having this discussion with the city's solid waste department. They intend to institute compost pickup in multifamily developments, but they currently don't know the logistics of how that's going to happen. And we're hoping that those decisions get made about what types of collection receptacles and how frequently they would be emptied and who would be doing that sometime later this summer. So given that this process takes 8-10 months, I'm sure we'll know by the end, but again, it's too early on for us to know. But yes, we are hoping to be able to accommodate.
That's good to know. Yeah, and I get the logistic problem. And honestly, even for me, I take my composting anyway and drive it there right now, but even if there was one outside near where the dumpsters would be that you could at least have options and availability to would be awesome.
Yeah, the one thing that the owners of apartment complexes don't want to do is buy containers that the city won't pick up whenever they make their decision. So I think everything's kind of in a holding pattern until the city gets its acting.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
Well, again, my email address is on the postcard. If you think of anything after we end the meeting, just drop me an email. That would be included in the citizens participation meeting report that gets submitted to the city. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your comments and questions.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
You too.